Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday catch-up, Q&A call with, we've got Matt and we've got Shaun. Matt's going to be talking to us about Sibanye Stillwater and give us an update on what's happening there. Before we start, I just wanted to quickly touch on one of our firm favorites, and you might be saying that I'm talking my book, but we all know that MTN is one of our favorite stocks for the year, and we've been watching that fall over the last couple of days. The information that we got is it's because of a fairly large fine that the Nigerian government wants to impose on them because of taxes. We know that in the past they fought those tax battles successfully, both in Nigeria and in Ghana recently, with about a $700 million fine waived there, or tax bill waived. So that's mainly the reason why, and the other reason that started the slide was the fact that they had to restate their foreign currency losses, and that dropped the previously reported earnings by about 13%. So yes, there was a bit of an error in the accounting, not willfully so, and secondary to that, they have a tax issue with the Nigerian government, and that's why it's falling hard. I think looking at it from a technical perspective over the last couple of days, it's definitely found some sort of a base, and it's starting to look like it could actually bounce off these levels, currently trading around $92. So I just wanted to give you an update on that, and then we'll go straight into Matt's presentation and his highlights of Sibanye Stillwater. Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarel, and thanks everyone for joining us today. So I'll just be chatting about Sibanye. Last week they came out with a notice saying that they are beginning Section 189 consultations regarding 4 shafts and associated services at the SA PGM operations. This affects 4 shafts, which at the moment are unprofitable. 2 of them were already facing closure. Sibanye had already ceased operations in the 4th quarter of 2022, and 4B faced closure due to reaching the end of its life. The remaining 2 shafts were not operating as planned. So Roland was underperforming due to some operational constraints, and access to the Suitability shaft was restricted due to seismic activity in 2022. So it is proposed that that management right sizes these operations as an alternative to closure, and this is expected to impact about 4,000 jobs, but it may be necessary to operate profitably. We were expecting more information this morning. This morning they came out with a quarterly update, and the main thing at first glance that we look at is just how the guidance has changed. And despite the news on these 4 shafts, the SA guidance was unchanged. It was up a little bit this morning, but the market's made up its mind now after digesting the results a little bit. They're down, just before this presentation started, they were down about 2%, and the rest of the market is mostly up. So a bit disappointing. So just I'll run through some of the highlights from the results. So first thing is the average exchange rate was about 10% weaker at 18.59 to the dollar. Adjusted EBITDA was down 65%, and driving that is mostly the prices. So on the SA PGM side, you've got production, which is actually a bit higher, up about 4.5%, and the prior periods were more impacted by load curtailment and cable theft, and the set of results there was not much mention of that, but more impressive is the cost management. They were able to keep the all-in sustainable costs down low, or they decreased 5%. So cost management was good, but the big thing is that the average basket price fell by 47%. On the gold side, production was down a little bit, 3%, and this was impacted by two incidents which occurred in the quarter. There was a fire at one of the shafts, Driefontein 5, and then also some seismic activity at Kloof 4. So that was impacted the production. The gold price, as you know, is done quite well this quarter. It's up 12%, and then costs were also, they managed to keep that under control as well. On the US PGM, is production was up 23%, and they basically recovered from a shaft incident which happened in the prior quarter last year, the prior period, which was impacted by flooding. The average basket price of the underground PGMs, which is platinum and palladium, was down 34%, and the decline in platinum and palladium was worse than what they expected. And then the costs are also a little bit higher due to inflation and skill shortages. And then the US recycling, that was down 48%. The commentary from management is just that there's a lot of macroeconomic uncertainty. People are buying fewer new cars, so the scrappage rates are a bit low. And then the average basket price on those PGMs decreased 35%. So the guidance was mostly unchanged, except for the US operations where they forecast, or they guided towards lower production and higher costs. This is just looking at the drawdowns. So Sibanye is down 70% from the highs reached in about February 2022, and it's currently the second worst drawdown on record, and this is mostly due to commodity prices. Here you can see all three PGMs have been on a downward trajectory, most notably rhodium, which is down 65% year to date. Platinum's down 13%, palladium is down 35%. All of this is outside of management's control, and as per the commentary, they said that the decline in prices was worse than expected and occurred more rapidly than they expected. So these are just some of the risks of investing in commodity companies, unfortunately. But it's not just Sibanye. All of the PGM producers have had a terrible year, and this graph just shows how they've done against the SA PGM basket price. So all of them have underperformed the basket price. And then just ending off on our valuation. So after the Section 189 announcement, we trimmed our valuation a bit. We made it just about as bearish as we can, given the guidance that's given by management. There's still about 30% upside, so we think for now we'll keep our recommendation as a buy with about a 30% upside. And that's it from my side. I'll hand over to Shaun for the technicals before we go into some Q&A.
Thanks, Matt. Yes, Shawnee.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, you can see the chart here of Sibanye. Yeah, again, like I say every week, it's compared to its 200-day moving average, you can see the long-term trend is bearish. In the medium term, it's also trading below its 21-day and 40-day moving averages. In the shorter term, it's testing that support trend line right at the bottom, which is very close to about 22.45. This is obviously the chart you're seeing now is price yesterday's close. The share price, as Matt said, now did open up a bit higher this morning, but right now it is trading lower and is testing that long-term support trend line there. The MACD indicator that oscillated at the bottom there, it's also confirming the bearish sentiment. It's trading in oversold territory and just below its trigger line. And there's no clear bullish signals yet. And other shorter term indicators are also oversold, but also seem to be losing momentum. So, as Matt said, now we give an intrinsic value of about 32 Rand, which is way up top there. You can see that that resistance level, that like a cyan color. You can see as a support level at 32 Rand. Although we have that, we've got some good upside potential. I would rather wait and see for that share price to see if it holds this current support level, as well as see if there's other clear bullish signals before, from the technical indicators before entering a trade. So right now it looks tantalizing and appetizing, but there's no clear buy signals yet. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Shaun. Yeah, so these stocks, if you look at these charts, I mean, they just keep going lower and lower and lower, and it's very hard for us as investors. We know we should be buying whilst it's coming down and not necessarily trying to catch it when it's running up. But with the market as it is at the moment, it's very, very difficult to pull the trigger on anything because everything against what the fundamental analysts are telling us, it just keeps coming lower. Sure. But certainly value in this one. It looked cheap a couple of weeks ago, and now it looks even cheaper, eh, Matt? So, yeah, let's see how this plays out.
We've had this in our portfolio for most of the year, so it's been quite hard to watch it keep on going down, and it's primarily driven by the PGM prices, which are completely out of anyone's control. There's good reasons to justify why why platinum could be or why all PGM metals can trade at higher levels than they are now. But yeah, hopefully that'll turn. Of course, it can also get much worse.
Let's hope it doesn't. Okay, I'm going to go to the chat and see if there's any questions. Clive says, thanks for the informative Sibanye presentation, Matt. The stock is on his watch list. So Clive is watching it closely, getting ready to pick up some. I don't see any other questions. Is there anybody that wants to ask a question outright? Maybe put up your hand, or we'll just switch on your mic and fire away. Doesn't look like it. It looks like people need a holiday, Matt. It's a lackluster Thursday. Thank you for giving us your insights, Shaun. Thank you for helping us with the technicals, showing us those supports and the resistance levels. Hopefully, we can get to that the resistance level up there from the current prices. And yeah, as Matt has said, fundamentally, the stock is a buy and should form part of the portfolio. Shaun says he wants to wait and see if this support level that it's currently trading at is playing out and it starts bouncing off that, maybe making a new higher high. Yeah, it's basically a waiting game. Thank you very much for joining us today. We'll get together again next week. And as per usual, I did not check beforehand what next week's chat is about. Shaun, do you know?
Yeah, Renogen.
That's it. Yeah, I remember now. I did check last week after I promised I would, and it's Renogen, and I see there was news about Renogen, and they say they will be producing helium before the year ends. So another stock that we're keeping a close eye on. So we look forward to hosting you next week and chatting about Renogen. Thank you very much.
There's a hand up there.
Yeah, let me see. Okay, yeah. Let's see whose hand's up there. Please ask your question. Who's that? Peter, yeah. Let me just unmute Peter there. Let's see. Let me go there. Let's see. Peter, let me see if I can unmute you here by me. I don't even see you on there at the top, man. Okay, yes. No, you seem unmuted. Peter? No, won't hear Peter. Right, let's go. See, Bernard's got his hand up as well. Let's see, Bernard, your question?
Thanks, Sarel. Can you hear me? Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, just sort of any sort of insights into the future price and demand of rhodium, because rhodium's really what gave those super profits, isn't it, for a while? And I think the rhodium price is just over $4,000 at the moment. So that could be quite a key influencer in terms of future, profits. So where would one be able to sort of get a feeling of, of future demand and prices for rhodium specifically? Thanks.
Yeah, rhodium's a tough one because it only trades in the physical market, and it's very illiquid. If I go back to this this chart on the PGM prices, you can see it was about $4,100 an ounce for a long time, and that's just because it's such an illiquid commodity. It's very and it's also very rare, so there's not a lot of it. And in fact, it only accounted for about, I think, close to 7% of production in 2022, but it made up about about half of the revenue. It's hard to get forecasts on rhodium, unfortunately.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go for it.
Peter here again.
Yes, Peter.
On the second sense of, well, I'm not quite sure which sense it was, but they refer to planned implementation. Do you know what perhaps this is about? By Sibanye, planned implementation.
I am going to look up that sense quickly and see if I can answer that. In the meantime, I'm going to jump to
the second sense.
I'll go check it now whilst Matt answers these questions, and then we'll get back to you, Peter. I see Leon says part of the forward-looking valuation, the impact of the copper mine in Zambia. Could that have a material impact on the share price if successful? And then the second question is from Kevin. He says he thinks Sibanye has exhausted all their PGE reserves and therefore little future prospects. Your comment on that, Matt, please. I'm going to look up that sense quickly.
So just on copper, and at the moment, the Sibanye is getting into a couple of different, they're calling them green metals, mostly used in batteries. So there's a couple of them. Copper, zinc, lithium. At the moment, they are a very small part of Sibanye's valuation. So at the moment, we're just focusing on the gold and the PGMs, which are the main drivers of Sibanye at the moment. So until they become until those green metals become significant, we actually don't pay too much attention to them at the moment. And then the question on the reserves, they haven't exhausted all of their reserves. There's still quite a good there's still good prospects for the reserves.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they'll still be operating in South Africa for a long time still. Is not much to worry about then depleting reserves.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I did have a look at those census, and the only one that I see that talks about second, Peter, is the Keliber Lithium project in Finland. They're talking about opening the second phase of that one. And then further on to that, the other census that I'm looking at is the consultations, the 189 consultations, which Matt mentioned about the 4 shafts. And then the full ownership they're taking of Kroondal. Is the only census that I see on my screen going back to the beginning of October. I hope that answers your question, Kevin. Sorry, Peter?
Yeah. Okay, no, that's fine. Thanks very much.
I don't see any further questions. Is there anybody who wants to ask a last question before we close? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so next week we'll see you for Renogen, guys. Have a fantastic Thursday, and thanks for joining us today. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.